In this episode, I draw straight lines on wood, I stare into the light, I make holes in household items, and I learn a valuable lesson the hard way. Welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to be refinishing the area where I took out my cabinets in the kitchen, and I'm going to use the cedar that was on the ceiling, and I'm going to refinish that area with the same type of wood. Now, I'm not going to rebuild my cabinets because remember I said that area was just too high for me. So I'm going to create a custom space, and I'm going to do a little bit of a creative project this time. So let's get started, and don't forget to hit like to support my channel and hit subscribe if you like my content. Thanks a lot. Join me on my adventure to renovate an old house in Japan. My first step is installing the wiring that will run the switch and then power all my lights before I install the wood. I'm using the old lights wiring connection to do a basic light junction. The cabinets were cut and installed into the wall. You can see there is a small recess or hole where they used to be. This is perfect because the wood is the exact thickness and will fit into this area perfectly. The wood I am installing will be flush with the trim once installed. Well, you'll see what I'm talking about soon enough. I said before that I will always use an electrician to do the electrical. But I actually do have some electrical experience, so this will be easy. I won't go into details because I don't want anyone learning electrical from me. Once the wires were in place, I started installing the wood panels by simply measuring, cutting, and then nailing them into the wall with a finished nail gun. I decided I wanted something a little bit more vintage looking for the lights. I didn't want them to be run-of-the-mill store-bought lights. I decided to try something unique and fun. I went to various antique shops and picked up different old glass jars or containers. I cut into the tops of them and ran the electrical wire down into a ceramic light socket. I then installed the lights with Edison-style LED light bulbs. Here you can see how the wood sits flush with the wood trim. It was the perfect fit to fill the hole the cabinets left. I added other details to this area like fake water pipes and small shelves to put some decorations on them, like old bottles. The light cables will wrap around the pipe and the lights themselves will hang from the water pipe. The rope you see here is actually the electrical wire wrapped with twine. It's too bad, this disgusting fan is still ruining the atmosphere of the kitchen. It has a complete disregard for good aesthetics. It's funny because in this area, when I was working after I finished wiring everything, I thought, man, it looks like I'm making a bomb here because there's just so many wires and clippers and pieces everywhere. But just to state for the record, I don't make bombs. Originally, the idea was to have maybe 9 or 10 bottles hanging from this pole that I had installed in the ceiling. And I started to realize after installing 3 of them that once I turned on the light, that light was brighter than the sun. It was so bright as it was. But I'm happy with 3 lights. But can you imagine if I would have installed 10 different lights and then put a light bulb in each of those? Wow, it would have just cooked me probably. Yo D, when you can get more of that psychedelic cheese? There was also many more jars I started collecting. I went online and I started just snagging them up and buying different types of antique jars. And as I started to receive these jars in the mail, I started to realize these are really cool jars. And one of the things that I was doing was drilling into the tops of the jars and into the lids. And I realized these jars are just too cool to just chop up and tear up and then hang. And so then also part of me was like, I don't want to do this. I want to keep these intact. That was another reason why I didn't continue putting more jars in this area as lights. And I realized, well, I can still keep some of the jars that I bought and then I can use them for decorations in the kitchen, since I'm kind of going for that kind of vintage look to the kitchen. Man, I really wanted to rant 1 hour about that ugly fan, but I'm going to hold back this time. But seriously, at least let's talk about the name. Oil pack. It's just so utterly stupid. That fan is just horrendous. Alright, I'll stop. But I'll replace it later in phase 3 of my kitchen when I'm going to actually be installing the stove and the countertops in that area. So that's for a future project. I also broke the window in the kitchen, so that's one more job that I have to do. But I'm happy because I get to at least replace those ugly frosted windows. And I want to apologize because normally I go into more detail when I actually show the project that I'm doing. But you may have noticed that on my finger I had a wrap. And you might have thought, did he break his finger? Well, if you caught that detail, then you are correct. I actually did have a broken finger at that time. Now, some of the things that I was going through was just a lack of motivation for doing DIY projects as well as filming with a broken finger. So, to keep kind of my motivation going, I decided I'm just not in the mood for filming this, but I'll just do something very minimal and talk about it very briefly. So, how did I break my finger? Well, that's it for this episode. I hope you... Oh wait, you want to see that part? Okay. The next portion is the extra content that I talked about at the beginning. I'm actually going to show when I was laying down the flooring in my hallway, I was putting down an oak floor, and the inevitable finger breaking in that process.
Many projects start out with cleaning and trash removal. I just happened to have 15 large tatami mats the weight of small hippos laying around in my hallway. I had to cut them in half and drive them out to the local recycling center. Originally, the hallway was going to be a light color, but I decided to make it a dark oak wood. I'm starting to collect too much wood material, so it's time to start laying some of it down on the floor. I kept the old hallway floor and just laid down a thin wood subfloor over it. It was only 6 millimeters thick. I didn't want to raise the floor higher than other parts of the house. Everything was going smoothly. I was using a Makita air staple gun, and that made things very quick. This is not like the type you see sold in America. This is more of a gun-type staple gun. The tip is angled to fit square with the groove of the wood. But you still have to push up against the wood to keep it tight sometimes, so it's a little difficult to use. This is the first half of the hallway is finished. Really satisfied with the way that it came out. I implemented some new strategies, I guess, based on some of the problems I've encountered. And one of the things that I did when I was doing the first row, I realized sometimes there's a gap between the wood where the boards, I guess, when I did the first row, they weren't quite straight as I put them across, and then when I came with the next row, there was always kind of this weird gap. You know, if you have two boards like this, but one is kind of this way, right? Then you would have a little gap here. So what I did was when I was laying that down, I came in with another board and I put it up against those two other boards to make sure that it was flat. If I saw that there was that little gap like this, then what I did was straighten it out. I think that really made a huge difference on the way that the rest of it laid out. I didn't encounter any problems after that. And one of the good things about that, I thought, was that in the previous rooms, once you kind of have that problem, then you're going to continue to have that problem because you're trying to compensate each time. So each time the wood has to bend and you're compensating. And I talked about before the screw down method was a nice way to kind of force or pull that board up against it. But I realized that that was kind of some of my error from the beginning. Once you start that first row, it kind of, you mess it up.
I was like a machine with the air staple gun. Things moved at a rapid pace. The hall is L-shaped, and I decided to run the flooring in the longest directions of the floor.
I'm going to change the direction and go in that direction. One of the things that I did was, once it comes here, I pretty much stopped, and this is a male lip here. So I left the male lip perfectly there. And then what's gonna happen is I'm going to start on this side, and then these are gonna mate up here. So it's gonna be really easy to transition it, I think, like that. Because that lip is gonna hold them in place. So those planks are gonna run in that direction. The only problem with that technique is that when I reach the end and I cut it over there, normally that leftover piece, I would bring it back over here. But because that piece on that side is cut, I'm actually don't have that female piece on the other side of it. This one's already cut. So these boards would go all the way across, and then it would be cut. As an example, this is the back part. So then there's nothing there. So when you come back to this side, you can't use this piece. So essentially, this piece is useless at this point.
To remedy this, I took a vise and secured the wood to my cutting table. I then took a handsaw and cut a groove into the edge of the wood. This way, I created the female groove needed to install it up against the male lip. Now, I'm not advocating doing this yourself. It might seem dangerous, but the saw has a cutoff feature which allows it to cut off if it gets jammed. A table saw would make this step easier, but I don't have one. Once I had changed to the other side, this is when the accident happened. It happened so fast, but it normally does. Let me just say this. A table saw is not something you want half your attention on. Also, never think that your blade is sharp enough. Always change your blade often. The short story is that the blade jammed into the wood and split the wood instead of cutting it. It had such force that it spun the wood around and slammed my fingers at high velocity. One finger broke and the other had a small fracture. It was a bloody mess, literally. Now, I didn't know how to convey this portion of the video because I left it out on purpose, but I felt that it was necessary to show this portion of DIY, not only the good things about DIY, but sometimes accidents do happen. And I wanted to show that it's bound to happen, maybe, if you continue to do this type of work. Even professionals, if they've been doing it for many years, they're going to have an accident. It's inevitable. The initial pain was zero, until my body finally decided to cut off the endorphins. It was then that I realized this injury is serious and it hurts like crazy. Not being able to bend my fingers was also a very good sign that something was wrong. Off to the hospital. Don't think that the cost was much. It ended up costing me 2,000 yen and in an afternoon. That's about $20 US. Points for cheap healthcare in Japan. I thought I could man up a little and keep working towards finishing that hallway, but the pain was just too much. So I thought it would be a good time to take a moment and I guess reflect a little to
do a little meditation on safety, I guess. And to be honest, today is such a beautiful day, and I was really excited because winter has been kind of brutal, I think, and I thought this is the first proper beautiful day and I should enjoy it. And actually that was my plan. My plan was to get up, get as much as possible done, and around this time, it's I think it's 5 o'clock just now. That's the 5 o'clock chime, and yeah, watch the sunset. So that was kind of my plan, but kind of got thwarted a little. I have a box of sushi here, and I'm going to have a banana. Actually, I have 2 bananas in case a monkey shows up. This is apple jam, and I got some 4-seed bread. So got that at a little import shop down the road. It's like 45 minutes away, but it's on the way here, so I sometimes stop there and enjoy. And I'm gonna enjoy the weather.
There's nothing like a beautiful sunset to calm my anger for what had happened. After a day to rest and lick my wounds, I commenced with finishing the hallway floor. The funny thing is that piece of wood, it actually split, but when I continued working on the flooring, I decided to glue that piece back together and actually install it back into the floor. That piece on the back of it actually has my blood on it, so it's kind of funny because now I can actually say that this house has my DNA in it. I was finding blood everywhere. It was straight out of a murder scene in a movie. Now I'm going to state for the record that I don't advocate people actually doing DIY while having broken extremities. I had a broken finger and it was my decision to continue working on my flooring. I had 8 days to complete this project because I had taken some time off from work, and that is not something that I come by very often. So I decided to push through the pain and actually continue and finish this project. Now, with that said, I didn't really enjoy doing it with a broken finger. Every little tap and bump that I did, because it's natural for you just to reach or push or to grab something without actually realizing, yes, I have a broken finger and anything that I bump or touch is going to shoot horrendous pain through my body. With that said, I did actually finish the project and I overcame this pain. Of course, part of it is my fault. When I was actually cutting weeks before, I realized that blade just wasn't pushing through the wood, tough to push through. So again, it was probably my fault for being lazy or I guess complacent with not actually changing out the blade. Always change out your blades often, and if you feel any sort of grabbing or pulling by your blades when you're cutting with your saw. The next episode, we're going to delve deep into the dark, mysterious world of ceramic tiles and tile adhesives. I decided to change out the tiles on the back wall of my kitchen and tear those down and replace them with a new type of tile. Right now it's kind of a horrendous teal color and a lot of them are damaged, so I decided why not replace them? But it's not as easy as I hoped. Will I come out of this situation alive? We'll see. Thanks for watching this episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like my channel. We'll see you next time.